Hi, Troy.
Hey,
I have a surprise for you.
surprise.
After our conversation yesterday about, I guess, writing,
Yeah.
I was consumed today by wanting to answer you more deeply. So I wrote something I would like to read to you.
Great.
Right? And actually, I was writing it for myself because I'm getting these notions and what I'm doing, and I recommend the same for all writers, maybe not all of them, but some of them, to have something around that, whether it's that you can write on, whether it would be, just to take a note, because these little notes, these little seeds are pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Like I took 3 notes. The one I'll read you in a second. The other 2 are efficiency, where I get to spill my guts about, and then love, which I entitled "Jesus Loves Me."
Mm-hmm.
And the one I wrote for you and me is called "Taking Myself Seriously."
Okay.
And I'm going to read it off my phone. So, and with your permission, Dan, I'd like to begin.
Sure. Yeah. Please do.
Many are the times when I have written, recorded, things that viewing and have after the fact amazed me. I have gone to great lengths to avoid taking credit and have explained where such things have come from because I shy away from taking credit to accepting little to no credit, except possibly as a scribe. Believe that they come from above or at least outside of me or wherever, even deep within my psyche. They seem to pass through me and not to originate within me. As they pass through, they seem to get snagged and have a respite in my conscious subconscious, where they, in their presence, exude their delight in having landed in a friendly and receptive place. This is not to mean that the common misperception that they all come from God as the source alone, human limitations in thinking or perceiving and receiving their presence, since there are many other and different manifestations that infer there are other explanations that better suit the idea beyond a being or a non-being, from which all emanates, that one so often spoken of as a consolidating notion, adjoined with the faculty of what one is able to acknowledge according to the blameless construction by forces that caused our coming into being in the present form we occupy. Wherever and whatever the source, I feel exceptionally privileged to function as I do in bringing them from the air or the energy field from which they emanate to the page and then to the eyes and consequently to the brain to complete the loop. This is a terrible stumbling block, and my excuse making serves no purpose except a pretentious humility that stops lynching by others whose concepts are secure without my interference contribution, which reduces me to a mere incidental functionary that deserves credit for being of use and service. This impedes me, my efforts, by keeping me in a subservient place and does little to nothing in advancing my position to a higher level, should there be one, without which my service may be limited to the mundane, common mediocrity and not advance my purpose to where it best serves the author and me, the scribe, aka the messenger, and limiting me to accessing or assessing those most easily available. The thought has only just occurred to me, but if I am going to play in the fields of the gods, I must feel myself access to knowledge far greater than I have now, which must surely be and is presently beyond my grasp. Should I be in error or fail, I should never know unless I try or attempt. If I am rewarded with a greater mission, I shall be pleased with my assignment and establish a greater understanding of where I am and where I am going, all dependent upon the ability to access the ethereal, unfettered confines. Should this please the gods, I should be overjoyed, as I believe it is, as Socrates alluded to, as advancing or ascending to different levels or strata of viewing the banquet of the gods. Of course, I must follow this conceptualization as one transmitting a higher knowledge to objects of creation as we know them to others like myself. There's the rub. I avoid much in pronouncing myself as a messenger and even taking credit for doing so, as if what I have recorded is of value to anyone but myself, according to my own judgment. Publication or sharing what I have been entrusted with the public as a forum is in fact a way of disseminating that knowledge once it is earth-centric, like there is some prior purpose designed in arranging the transmission through me, if that is indeed what is happening, even as my own singular perception and transmission. It is necessary then to limit the self-criticism and allow that to be a foregone conclusion, so I may move on past the leanings of self-restrictions and unworthiness, the better to assist the flow and go more deeply into what shall lay beyond if I am entitled. That is an get over it or an get over yourself aspect that otherwise impedes my furtherance and limits me to abridging my abilities to further my contributions. That serves no purpose to the task at hand, but introduces human frailty and limitations of physical proportions to the mechanics of transmissions, which, as I see, serves no purpose and impedes any further adventures.
Wow.
And that was my translation or my idea of what's going on inside of me when I try to explain to myself what's happening to me, I guess would be the proper explanation.
Well, I think it's amazing. Like you said, you just wrote that today, right?
Yeah. It's like getting hit by a wave. It's like, I'll write this down.
Your ability to do that is phenomenal. I mean, in comparison with what
I like
I
my
did.
parents. It's a good word.
So but yesterday we talked about doing this, and I've heard people talking about channeling, and it's reminding me about channeling, where I don't know if it's the fortune tellers or whoever, but spiritual teachers talk about just get in touch and let things flow, and people have written books like what was that, the Conversations with God and things like
or
that.
others.
Yeah.
Those who haven't quite made it there yet.
Talk about
there must be a few
thing, being able to channel this kind of space that you mentioned, that where everything kind of comes from. and let it flow and just, let it come out. So yeah, I think what you're doing is amazing. I wish I could do it. I'd love to have a guide of, okay, how to write, I don't know how many words that you just spoke, but in comparison, I had to go and I've come up with maybe 3 or 4 sentences, and it took me an hour of really kind of sitting there and waiting. Okay, what is it that's coming? And then so yeah, to be able to take what you can do easily, and this is the data science in me kicking in, and say, okay, because I believe everybody would benefit from whatever this is, channeling or creative writing, spending an hour a day to let things flow and come out and write on the page. Like you said, it comes from this space, it comes through your pen, then through your eyes and into your brain again. So it solidifies these aspects that were once in this empty space, that of nothingness, where this kind of power or God or consciousness exists, and then takes form. And then that form can either, like I heard in your words, progresses you and takes you to the next level, possibly, or does bring some level of benefit and value. So yeah, the data science in me wants to bottle it, like we've mentioned before. Okay, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, and you're going to channel and you're going to create awesome content and have the value and the benefits that it brings. So yeah.
Can I hear what you wrote?
Yeah.
These 4 sentences you said? And may I comment? Of course, I will.
So yeah, yesterday we talked about this bigger picture, and I titled it 2 Guys. My intention was to let things flow about, my life and the crossroads of you and I, and then the achievements and progress and learnings that we've come through together. So yeah, it's a bit piecemeal still, but this is, I'll just read it. And yeah, so 2 guys. A couple of billion years ago, a strange thing happened. A unicellular eukaryotic organism accidentally swallowed an aerobic prokaryotic organism as they happened to be passing each other by one day. First life on Earth was the single cell organism. With nothing better to do, they started swallowing each other. Through this process of single cell organisms swallowing each other came the ability to get energy by either creating oxygen or consuming it. Simply put, if you created oxygen, you'd be a plant. If you consumed oxygen, then you are not a plant. Now, even if you are a plant, you still have consciousness. This can be seen in slime mold experiments. The eternal consciousness resides in the space of nothingness. This space allows all things to exist. One day, decided to emerge into a consciousness being, this is a bit piece. One day decided to emerge into a conscious being that would become to be known as Troy. Troy is not a plant. When the not a plant Troy was given a small bag of marbles on his 5th birthday, he was destined to become a data scientist. For the next 3 years, this is where I changed it. I was obsessed with marbles, but then I changed schools, and at the new school, it wasn't the same. It's where I'm up to.
That's great. That's so lively, man. It's wonderful. You take my brain on like a trip.
Okay.
I enjoy it, Troy. You know, as opposed to, I don't know, if somebody might listen to me and say, okay, I learned something or whatever, maybe not, maybe so. But when I listen to you, it's just like abandon, right? I'm just in a bobsled, man.
Okay.
Just going down the chute. And I really like it. It's relaxing, it's calming, it's soothing, it's imaginative, and it keeps me focused and on the edge of my seat. Like when you stopped, it was like, you know, you ever been with a girl and you're having sex and if for no reason she stops, right?
Sure.
Or vice versa.
Mhm.
That's what it was like when you stopped. It's like, no, what are you doing? Why are you stopping? Don't do that. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and don't discount yourself, man. Not at all. You know, it goes back to the me sitting in the dentist chair and Mark saying, you know, man, you need to write a book. And it's like, where the fuck did that come from, Mark? It's like, I don't know, man. I just feel it. It's like, okay, I'll get started. Yeah, how about the first one? Okay. It's like, yeah, all right. You didn't ask the price, but you made a commitment.
Yep.
It's $1 million book,
Yep.
cash.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But you do great stuff.
yeah, I can see. I mean, I enjoy reading it as well, but it's still, I mean, it takes effort. I mean, to come up with that, like there's, yeah, at least 1 hour and maybe more. And then, but that's, yeah,
Is that some kind of measurement?
I don't know whether,
I mean, should it have taken 3 minutes or 4 hours? I mean, because you don't seem pleased that it took you an hour to write. I mean, that's okay. How long did it take him to build this house?
Sure.
Or to bake a potato?
Yeah. So that's again just me analyzing it and saying, okay, if I'm in comparison mode here with what you wrote and what I wrote, and
Don't do that. That's
okay,
apples and oranges, man.
sure. But the process, I mean, is still the same. So what you're talking about, channeling, and I mean I keep referring it to as channeling, but you didn't use those words, but that's how I can see where you just let things flow and these words come out, and then it so how do you do that?
Do you roller skate?
Sometimes it's rollerblading these days. I haven't
Okay.
roller.
All right. I don't think I've ever rollerbladed, but I have roller skated. And first time you put on the skates with the blades, were you an expert?
No.
How many times did you fall?
Yeah.
Countless, right? Yeah, and you just, I hear the same thing. You demand too much of yourself. And that serves to discourage you. That serves to have expectations that are unachievable at this point in time with what you want. You project out there thinking that you know what people want and you're trying to satisfy them. I mean, that's how I feel when how I'm responding.
Okay.
And it's just that's a high compliment, because getting to that point where, okay, the point of flow, you can define flow, right, which is quite popular these days, right? And then you can ask a Chinese guy to, Lao, who was it? Was it Lao Tzu? who wrote what the name of his work was. Anyway, the way, the Tao.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a matter of, it's like, you ever been dove hunting or quail hunting, where you
Well,
flush the bird out of its hiding place? How do you
when we were
decide
young-
which one to shoot?
Yeah, well, when we were young, I went to university up north.
Mhm.
And me and two other friends, who one of them, he had an uncle who had a farm there, and they hated all the kangaroos because the kangaroos would eat. So we used to, well, it was one or twice. I think it was only once actually that he took me out and we went roo hunting. And
Roo hunting.
yeah, with these shotguns and rifles, and you see a kangaroo, you just shoot it. But
Let them have it.
there wasn't any.
Did you eat them?
We didn't hit any this day for some reason. They were not there. There was one, but it was right in the distance, and we were all so excited. We were just like, I don't know if you've seen that, you remember that scene out of The Predator, where they just they see the predator for the first time, and then shoot someone, and then everybody just clear the whole forest. So that was what we did with all our ammo and our guns, but it was always too far away to actually even get it anyway. So that we saw one kangaroo, and that's what happened. And then after that, my mate got bored, so he started shooting these little parakeets out of the tree. So that's as close as dove hunting as I've got.
Well, yeah, you still have to select one, right? You can't, because
That's
they're all
right.
in the air like flies.
Mhm,
And then,
mhm. Right.
you say, okay, I'll just aim in the middle and I'll get three.
Mhm, mhm.
No, you won't.
Right, you have to go.
Not my experience anyway.
Yep.
You got to pick one,
Mhm,
and that's
mhm.
the one you follow. And it's the same thing with your thoughts, right? You've got to disengage from. Well, there's another one. And that's what it ends up being, right? And if you just have a little tenacity to follow one thought, just to see where it goes, knowing that it's a kind of practice,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Because it took me years to get to the point where I can follow a thought.
Mhm.
And if somebody interrupts me or something happens, it's finished. Then I'm
Right.
frustrated and I don't know,
Yes.
I have to go back to it
Okay.
and catch that thought again. And if
Mhm.
I can, I will. That's
Mhm.
why I admired Mark so much. Patients in the next room bleeding to death. I haven't finished the sentence yet.
Mhm,
He's saying to him, they won't look up or anything.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I complimented him on that. The ability to stay focused,
Yes.
even if it's just, if it's reading a sentence or whatever, or if it's, drilling in somebody's mouth
Mhm, mhm.
or whatever. They could be a small child. And I asked him, how do you do it, man? You got a kid who's like, how do you fix their tooth? Just keep at it.
Mhm.
All right, I get it.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah, that's 50 years of dentistry, right?
Mhm.
or 40 years of dentistry. And it's like, man, he has just nerves of steel, ex-Marine too, so that he's been able to put it all together into a profession, which
Mhm.
may be, the segue into a business play, because
Mhm.
you're taking people's lives, and everything that they went through in that play they call their life. And they can be talking to you, about Chris Neal, and Joe in the post office. And if you're sharp enough or attentive enough or see the value in something, then it's of use to you. If it's not, then just let it go. But people, and I wrote about this too, and another thing I'll tell you about in a second, of you're writing for yourself first. You're not writing for anybody else. And that gives you an allowance to say anything. Don't edit yourself. Oh my God, somebody's gonna. This is a quarter of a second, right? Oh my God, somebody's gonna read that and they're gonna see I use the word pussy, and Jesus Christ, I can't take it. I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm turning bad, and it's like then you see, the disciples standing in front of you, ushering you in the staircase to hell, right? And it's like all that happens in like a quarter of a second. And you just have to say, look, hey man, do you mind doing this alone? Okay, I'm doing this for me, not you. So stop looking over my shoulder, stop whatever you're doing. And it's that sort of everyday life experience that we use in order to be able to follow a thought. And it's not guaranteed. Like I said, phone can ring or whatever, or you may just sort of, I call it dozing, where I'm there thinking about where, and I'm gone, man. I don't know where I am. It's just like I'm nothing. I'm away. It's a waking dream, and I'm just sailing through the air. And then something happens, and I go back to the pages. Like, where did I stop? Oh yeah. Can I catch that thought again? Did I tie it down? Okay. If not, okay, forget it. It'll come back later. And then I go back up to the next and sort of reading in reverse until I get something that's interesting. And then I start all over at the bottom without it being, it's a non sequitur. Just go ahead and go from there, because I'm not editing. I'm just spilling my guts on the page. And I go back later and make sense out of it, or cut it, or just say, ball it up and throw it in the circular file and keep moving. Without, and then in that next quarter second, you're saying to yourself as a writer, I fucked up. I'll never be able to do this. Or somebody else, the guy in the chair next to me, is doing it like it's nobody's business. I don't want to take this class anymore. I should have taken mathematics. I knew it, Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, just relax, breathe. That's a good idea. Breathe, just breathe, and come back to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's really wise words. Come back to yourself. It sounds, well, people have talked about this self-awareness. So being aware, or it's not conscious, but being conscious, having consciousness. I mean, there's one aspect of, of course I'm conscious, I'm alive and I'm talking and I'm not dead. But then there's the aspect of consciousness where you can actually see your thoughts and say, is this what I'm going to allow happen right now? These thoughts of, it's not working, or perhaps a distraction does come in, and you change your focus to that distraction. But if you are aware of yourself, self-aware, you can say, no, I'm not going to change from what I'm doing right now, even though there's a knock at the door or something else coming into the environment. So that takes a lot of self-control. Well, first off, for me anyway, it's rare that I can catch myself in that moment, because I'm just, there's not, I've got to go. But to be able to do that is one thing, and or to see that happening. And then the second thing is to be dedicated and say, no, I'm not going to act on it. So I saw it, but this is what's important. And to have that self-awareness, or that level of consciousness, is what I think is needed, but difficult to get, or to, like you said, takes practice.
When I was in college, I was asked, there was the night before the next day in class, and I was like, oh shit, I was supposed to write a theme paper.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God, what am I going to write about? And then it ended up being about gambling just because it came to my head. And I remember going into it and being totally lost. It's like, where the hell am I going? All this pressure, I'm going to get a bad grade. And then I said, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to just keep writing all over the place. Then go back and read it and see if it makes any sense. It was really, something esoteric. And this was a school that was known for its engineering students, not people like me. Although there were cliques of people like me that, And I finished. I said, fuck it, man. Whatever. I'm not going to be able to do what I know/sense is required of me. So, but I'm going to pass something in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and I'm not even sure that I reread it, edited it, or whatever, because I was so frustrated with the whole thing. And this happened numerous times, actually. Next day I handed it in. I took up all the papers, and then class was dismissed. He didn't read anybody's, of course. And then the next day he started giving out papers again with grades on them. And he came up to me and he said, "This is fucking genius." And I was like, how can that be genius? It was trash. I just snatched stuff out of the air and wrote it down. I didn't even reread it. And it was like from that point on, it was like, good God, man, write something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, all right, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was just, and by the time I was in the fourth year, I had done this in high school too. It was like, and why my brother hates my ass is because things just come to me, right? And the harder I work, the less I get. So I just, took everything very easy. I didn't run to class because I was always late if I ran to class. But if I walked casually to class, I was always on time or early.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how the hell did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
So, I was on some other kind of track
Mm-hmm.
about what I thought I was doing that was supposed to give me the results that I thought I was supposed to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
but never was, because I was listening to other people instead of myself. And my family always considered me to be the rebel. And I said, I'm not a rebel, man. I'm independent. I'm not here so that I do what you do. We can call it competition and you have more things in the end than I do, so you win. It's like, and what? Nusto?
Mm-hmm.
What is that supposed to mean? Can we go on now? Can you leave me alone now? And it just got to the point, Troy, where I stopped having so many expectations of myself.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The expectations, another word for disappointment, were always there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't want to play, even if there's only one person in the room, and that's me, right? Talking to myself about all this stuff.
Mm.
And it's just like those little experiences happened that other people got credit for. I was dating this girl, Christmas Carol was her name. And she was doing a magazine, school literary magazine for NC State called The Windhover. And she had friends, right? That she principally had to publish them because they were her friends, right? They would get drunk together, do all this stuff, whatever. Wild woman with a name like Christmas Carol, you can imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so father was a pilot who crashed his jet. Long story. Mother was a nurse, and they were all just a bunch of drunks. And I put that magazine together, but Christmas Carol publisher And it was like, yeah, I guess all I did was, take you around on the back of my motorcycle so you could go places and pick up work from people, and she was like this the whole time she was talking, and it was like, I suppose that's supposed to add something to your presentation, because I don't get it. And maybe that's your way of saying to people that you'll never understand me. It's like, maybe that's because you don't understand yourself. So I just kept following all this stuff, and just, and where I'm trying to go with this is, I would, when I was, before school, I was writing poetry, and I would write something and then would not know where it's taking me. And I would leave it. And then I would start writing on something else. And then I would remember that I had stopped without finishing something. And I was afraid to go back to it because I was afraid it wouldn't make sense.
Okay.
But one day I said, okay, I'm going to go back to it and see if I can tidy it up, even if it's just a rhyme, right? And I couldn't think of what rhymed with Pellegrino. And so I said, well, I'll take a stab at it. And I just kept working and reworking, having fun the whole time. Nobody was standing over me with a whip. And so I just kept doing that until it became a challenge. I got to the point where it was like, well, I'm going to finish this, see if I can make some sense out of it.
Yeah.
And then places I've been, I'm just sitting there, nothing to do in the evening or whatever. And I just start from nowhere. I would hear a noise, right? And then I would say, whatever the noise was, the fan, right? And I would describe what I'm hearing, the ventilator. And then I would say, sounds like a heavy wind. Is there rain in that wind? And then I just keep adding stuff to it, and full paint by number kind of stuff. And then reach some level of which I was satisfied with having described what it was I was feeling. I brought it into myself after listening to the fan.
Wow.
And I do that with anything, and yeah, so that's another way that I do it.
Right.
I made a couple of notes on what you were saying. I'd like to share them with you.
Yeah.
Is that when you speak to me about, I think you would call them deficiencies, you use very broad words, right, to encompass a wide range of definitions, feelings, experiences. It's sort of like, Troy, go pick out a sheep, and you go out into the pasture, and it's like, I'll take that one. Why that one? I don't know. Well, you should know. You take your time, look at all the sheep, right? But you like to think, I went out to the herd, right?
Okay.
And when it comes to answering, why did you choose that one? You lean on processes. You say, okay, here's what I did, and you're explaining, which I don't want to know, really. It doesn't matter to me, of how you got to where you are. That's sort of like, well, it was laying in the middle of the sidewalk and there was nobody else around, so I picked it up and I started playing with it. It's like, that's not what I asked you. And the conclusion, that short conclusion is that you lean very heavily on a methodology.
Okay.
You demand a methodology before you start. It's like, I don't know, how you got it? Well, you said with your girlfriend, you spent a lot of time talking, right? Did you have some methodology in mind, some approach, and you go home and think about what you did and how to improve it, and what you're going to do next time, and so on and so on. And you struggle if it is a struggle for you, and I sense it, that you want everything to be very well defined before you start. And I'm saying, be careless. And I say that because when you are not careless, you miss what being careless brings.
Okay.
You must think in some way that not being careless is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I look over the page here where I make my notes, just one page, and I've got things like hung up, possessed, too serious, obsessed, and I'm thinking, okay, where does that lead? I wouldn't call you anal, definitely not. I would call you possessed.
Yeah.
And that possession must have reward, must have or must be rewarding you with something that you seek.
I guess to go on the word careless or carelessness, or to be carefree. So
Two different words.
Okay, careless.
Careless, you're not concentrated, you're not focused, you just, sling it all around.
Yeah. So I guess growing up, I've always been taught to take care. Don't be careless because you'll get in trouble, and things happen where
that's not the only benefit, is it?
So being careless causes problems, whether physical or financial.
You learn something
careless
from your mistakes, right? That's the only way we learn anything. And then you'll know, oh shit. Did you learn anything?
So
yeah, I sure did. Next time I'll use a prophylactic.
Right. So the carelessness brings information, brings learning, brings
nuance.
Yeah.
It brings the unexpected. And it's like, the Japanese don't get depressed. They are thoughtful when they define it for themselves. You may look at them and say, oh my God, that guy's depressed. It's like, I'm not depressed. I don't look like you. And when I'm deep in thought or I'm recollecting my grandmother or something, I'm not sorry she's dead. But around here, people, if I haven't performed in the proper manner, people will say, you haven't mourned your grandmother yet. And it's like, am I supposed to? Am I required to? And it's a lonely life. It can be a very lonely life. Particularly if you start talking, starts talking with someone I don't know about this kind of stuff. I pretty much know that on the second or third eye roll, that it's time to stop talking about that. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not crazy. I'm just talking about something that you have no idea about. And I'm wasting my time.
Sure. Okay.
So, carefree and careless or careful, they all bring connotations, meaning with them. A name defines limitations. That's why, some of these big strict religions like Orthodox Judaism, they don't say God or Yahweh, or they say Hashem. They say the Israeli words, Hebrew words that say, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of deep definitions. It all comes down to different perceptions of that word, and the main word being care. So to care.
Why do you have to care, Troy?
That's right.
Why do you care? Choose any subject. Why do you care about whatever?
Um,
Shall we
well,
choose Layla, for instance, just as an example?
sure.
It's close to you. She's close to you. Okay. Why do you care for Layla?
I guess it's because we share common goals, and
Is that a reason to care?
well, I guess the essence of it comes from a deeper place where, you know,
Is that a cop-out?
come across when you come across somebody in your life. I mean, like I care for my children, and
What does that mean?
that means that I have them on my mind when I take actions. It's like I need to, well,
Keep it simple.
yeah,
Just don't give me processes. Right?
Okay.
'Cause you're dragging me in,
Mhm,
right? And
mhm.
once you use certain words, we are already in process,
Sure.
right? And it takes a rude SOB like me to stop you. Or I could just let you go where you're going, but I don't think we would get anywhere other than where we were going.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure if this is a cop out, but it's just I care for them because I do. And
I'm asking you, what does it mean
what does it mean?
when you say, do you care for me, Troy?
That's right.
Do you care for me, Troy?
Yes.
Oh, that took a while. I'll just tell him what he wants to hear. Maybe he'll go away.
But I was knowing then I'm trying to answer the next question is why? Why do I care? Why do I care about Layla? Why do I care about my children? Why do I care about my parents? Why do I care about you?
Yourself.
Why do I care about, yeah, myself or anything? And that's the only thing I can come up with is because I just do. And
Not good enough.
yeah, then
I want to see blood.
the more I try to analyze, okay, what are the reasons? The further away
Don't
I
analyze.
get.
I want you to feel. I want you to tell me, I care for Lena because she's a lot of trouble. And if she wins an argument, I feel defeated. That's what happens with her. Plus, okay, we've been together 12, 14 years. It's like, okay, fine. We try to find somebody else. That's going to be a trouble, and then it's like, I heard somebody say, I can't leave them. I've invested too much in her. It's like, okay. So tomorrow, she'll not come home. And there goes your investment. But it all comes back to, I think, how I or you feel. Does it make you feel good?
Right.
Does it reward you? Does it give you something? Because I believe that everybody acts out of one motivation: selfishness. Whatever it is you do for yourself. Even though it may take on the appearance that you're doing something for somebody else, like caring for them, there's something that you're doing for yourself.
Okay.
Right? And if we could drill to the bottom of that, then we could probably circumvent a lot of frustration in writing, because then all you would have to do is to listen to yourself and write it down. Don't try to command it, right? Just let it happen. And don't say, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Just write it down.
Right.
And then after 20 years of doing that, then you may want to compose something. Now it's, you can, you're adept at what you're doing, like a dancer, right? Or a musician. Then it's nothing. You've seen musicians, right? Just sitting down and you got a musical instrument. And it's just like, put it to their mouth or put their hands on it, and there you go.
Yeah. That takes practice.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Well, unless you're gifted, like some young
Mozart?
children, yeah, sit at a piano and just can, and I guess, these, going back to being in the flow and, letting things just, or channel through, it must be coming from, I think, another dimension or a deeper space, or this, consciousness that is beyond the life forms that we have, whether it's single-celled organisms or multi-celled complex.
How did you get to be a data scientist?
Well,
Did it just come to you? You popped out of the womb and you said, "Give me a computer, somebody."
that's the story is, I guess I just was doing what I love doing. Just, I was gifted at these things. So I guess, in some ways of just channeling it and letting it come through. And then one day someone told me I was a data scientist, and everything made even more sense in that, because before I wasn't sure what instrument I was playing. And then someone recognized that instrument and said, well, you're a really good data scientist, the way that you play that data science instrument. And that's how I continued to be and practice data science.
So if I tell you you're a really good writer, are you going to become a writer? Because you are.
I think, being a writer, it's in that same, it's like being a cook, or it is like being a data scientist or data science. We all have to write. There's a lot of different levels in cooking. You can be, if you have to make a sandwich for lunch, essentially cooking yourself a lunch. But if you cook a 3 or 5 course meal with serving a lot of people, then you're a master chef. So
what would you say that all master chefs have in common? It's a trick question.
Okay. They have mastered the art of cooking.
Well, they couldn't cook if they didn't know how to use a knife.
Sure.
I would say.
Yes.
And it's an art.
Yeah. So that's the same aspect, like as my nephews, River and Neo, are just learning to use a knife for the first time. And, as they grow, they are given the knife to cut up and use it. So writing, and they'll also learn how to write. So essentially they'll be a writer. And the pen, it's the same thing. Or a computer with a keyboard.
The pen is mightier than the knife.
Yeah. So, I think it's all up to these levels that we want to take it. And so back to data science, when you look at what data science is, a lot of people are doing data science, gathering data, analyzing the results, presenting those and taking action. But they, might not consider themselves to want to pursue that as a career and as a life choice. So if I choose to be a writer, then, it's my life choice. If I bring it into that context of, okay, and say,
I've got a sister who likes to think of herself as an artist, painter.
Yes.
A sculptor, whatever.
Sure.
And, I told her, you need to find something else to do. Right? I don't care if you like what you're doing or whatever, that's different. That's a hobby,
Sure.
but you ain't no painter. You know, there is nothing in what you do except you paint things like naked woman hanging on a cross with a wolf there at her feet and a herd of pigs with a crow sitting on her shoulder. Well, you have to understand, you know, that's my pain. And it's like, I don't give a shit because I can't hang that in my living room. Right. And no, yeah, you can compare yourself to Grandma Moses or you know, whoever, Rita Kahlo or whatever her name was. And it's like, they have to be painting, not because they want to succeed, because most of them never see the money. Picasso, okay, he commercialized cubism or trash or whatever you call that shit that he put on paper. You know, I never liked him. I wouldn't own one. I have a Miro, but that's because it was at a good price, right? I just had the money and it's like, okay. And they half the cost of the painting, so I took it. But it's just like, okay, that's an investment, whatever. But she's no painter. But she keeps painting anyway. And I think that's a fine line, is that, you know, somehow or another, if you receive accolades, and I don't mean grants. Grants are given by wannabes, right? I wish I was an artist. You don't know the first thing about being an artist. An artist is every human being, and art is everything created by people. Now let's start again. It's not, oh, I'm special, and I'm really going to prove I'm special. You know, let me show you something I just did. Huh? You like it? That's something, isn't it? You see, it's like, my, look at the time. I got to go. But that's a psychological problem from my point of view.
Yeah.
You know,
If going back,
it's a certain kind of naivete.
sure. Yeah. I think, yeah, being in the flow, being able to let things channel through, people might get confused of whether they're channeling or not. And their brain is saying, you really want to be an artist, you want to be a painter. And for whatever reason, that's distracting or stopping the other kind of thoughts or messages that are coming through. And yeah, that's the difficulty. That's a challenge for me, definitely, is to say, okay, do I really want to be a data scientist, or is it just something I'm hung up on, possessed or obsessed with? Or
can you be more than one thing?
Well, definitely. I think it's,
and you are.
Sure.
You know, I'll tell you the truth. I don't know how good of a data scientist you are.
Sure.
Because I don't really have a level of understanding of performance and what a data scientist does to be able to pass that judgment. And if I did, okay, then I would just give you a learned opinion, and so what, right? But it all boils down to, I mean, look at it this way. By the time I got to Hollywood, and by the time I started being successful, then I understood I didn't want it. And everybody, are you nuts? I said, it must be, because, you know, I don't want to be on a TV program. I don't want to be on a soap opera. I don't want to have to learn the nonsense scribblings that writers do that I'm supposed to say, because you have no idea what it's like to speak this trash. I said, and one time I lost an agent that way. I was like, I'm not reading this shit. Well, just read it. Just read it. I said, no, it's nonsense, and I'm not doing this anymore. Which is then leads to true artists who make that denial And then if they're at a certain level and they've got the look or however you refer to it, they do what they want to do. And then they're kissing a lot of directors' asses. Because at that point in time, like Clarence Carter said to me, we understand each other, don't we? And I said, fuck yeah. And looked him straight in the eye. And there was no, oh, you're Clarence Carter. Wow. And it was like, no, we're here to do this art form. And then when it all became commercialized the way it is now, and drama in America died, and then they started doing everything like, well, let's do Cats again on Broadway. It's like, wow, how interesting. It's not interesting. And it died. And it's like, I don't want to do that shit.
Sure.
You know, I say, find something. Yeah. And you look at the scope of talent today. I don't even want to call it talent. It's just an industry word, right? It's like when you're promoting something on TV, you're a part of a commercial. And I've done a lot of commercials. This is called the hero. And if you touch the hero in a film, you're in the credits. You have somebody point a gun in your face. Okay. You're singled out. Especially if they use it as a tension builder. And really happy to invite me back to Hollywood. It's like, I just left that fucking place. And then I was in the music industry. Jesus. Yeah, I would say again, Troy, I think you have you've got the whole world out there, and then you've got an ant colony. And a lot of those ants don't do anything except bring grains of sand to the surface or dig tunnels. How they see underground, I have no idea, because it's pretty dark under there, as far as I know. And then you've got the queen, right? And then you've got drones, which some people call consultants. They don't do anything. They just wait for the marriage flight, right? And then they die. But you're not a worker, not a worker bee. You're not a worker ant. I don't think you belong in a mound.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy the writing, and definitely new track to continue with this story.
It's you, Troy. You're putting you, and I sense it, and I know it, and I enjoy it, because you're not manipulating anything. You're not using technique and all that other stuff, right? Or let me do this because I know this is going to happen if I put these two together. It's like, maybe, but you're just, you're a natural.
Great. Yeah,
natural.
Well, that's a great word. Being a natural. That's
So Redford film, right? The Natural.
Right. You can be a natural, like we're saying, in so many different things.
You are a natural, and you don't have to defend it or explain yourself. You are what you are, and it's singular, and it's very interesting.
Right.
Because it's original.
Mm-hmm.
And the most successful people I know never studied at it.
Right.
They're natural.
Great. So yeah, I'm going to keep developing this, letting it flow as much as I can, allow it to. And
did you dig out that Paro website explanation? Yeah. Would you send it to me when you get it a chance?
Sure.
Unedited, don't touch it. I don't care if it's upside down and green.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to read it again. It was lyrical.
Sure. I mean, we've got a lot of different versions. So the earliest one,
the earliest one. before you touched it as an editor.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to look again for that one. But the ones I've got and looked at were the ones where we'd already start putting it into the book form. But there's a version before that I think you want, so I'll dig that out.
Yeah, yeah. Because, when we started paring it and cutting it and chiseling it, then we were trying to make an educated guess. It's like, okay, fine. Then we'll put it, it'll fit the form, right? We got all this batter. Where's the cake pan we put it in? It's like, why don't we not put it in a cake pan? Let's put it in something else.
Sure. Okay.
How about an empty can? Experiment. You'll find that you'll see my point of view eventually, I think. And because you are so into yourself, which is one of the facilities that you use in practicing data science, you have that point of focus. It's like I read somewhere in Russia that a long time ago that why are Russians such good hackers? Is because they started off by ignoring all the political bullshit that they were being bombarded with. So they learned to shut it out. And computers are an excellent place to do that. So then they became very specialized, right, in what they were doing by shutting out the rest of the world. And then that developed into, well, I guess I'm here alone, so may as well make the best of it. Let's see, what am I going to do with myself? No, I did that this morning, or something like that. And then they fulfill their dreams in that way. And then they accept challenges. It's like, what do you mean I can't hack the FBI? Of course I can. Okay, let's see it. And it's not that they're trying to become an expert. They have to be an expert. It's like when I first moved to New York, I said, the guy said, what makes you so special? And I said, I have talent. And he said, you're expected to have talent. It's like, oh shit. Well, I've got it. Now, how do you want to prove it? Well, first of all, we have to beat you to death for 2 years, right? Make sure you're still around, because it's about attrition. If you can last, you'll be a star. Don't worry about it, because everybody else gets smashed all along the way and give up or get tired of that bullshit or whatever. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to laugh. And then people who get the job are the ones who don't give a shit. Yeah, I can read and chew. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay. I don't know if this has been helpful or not, but I'd like to close by reading another thing that I'm trying to put together for Frank.
Sure.
If and you don't mind. And it all goes back to DAOs. So, I've been switching and winnowing and everything else to get to somewhere. I'm not going to say all of this, of course, but it's, if I'm going to be talking about zero, then I've got to know everything about zero. So I can just tell you the 3 words I've got to say by going through, all kinds of winter storms and tornadoes and stuff like that.
Cool.
So I'll maybe just read a paragraph if it flows. If it doesn't flow, I'll stop. Okay, it's about Process Asia meeting. And okay, stop qualifying. Communication with the public is ordered by distraction of the public and is fundamentally represented as a change for the better, much like the notion of progress or even evolution, which is as yet theoretical as fragile as presuming authority, which is taught and not native. The tradition is long and presented as factual as long as it is believed in by most people. That does not limit the construction of or application of differing concepts, which may be as good as, if not better, than the ones presented as truth with a small t, or even truth with a big T. Awkward. I'll go one more. Reality encapsulates evolutionary concepts, logic, rationale, perspective, science, space-time, flow, mythology, magic, spirituality, integrality, delusions, grievances, demographics, choice, psychological or physiological conceptualizations, etc., rather than political movement. Fuck it. It's too complicated. But I skipped down and asked myself a question. One such question may be the topic of this panel's discussion. How can we be assured of global communications while maintaining a nation's right to control messaging? Answer: we can't. By the way I see things developing globally, we can be assured of nothing. So we escape that challenge immediately. And the question of rights, entitlement, or justice is continuously contested and is emphatically and historically determined by might. Might is right, as the saying goes, or truth of the matter. Might is right. Control then is determined by the outcome of engagements aside from the claim to benefits that victory and defeat determine, even in the areas of cyber combat. Messaging utilizes a single binary mathematical language and English. We have disassembled that set of circumstances and will reconstruct them. Okay. Thank you for letting me hear my garble. Damn it. This is a tough one to boil that down to a greeting card message.
But no, I think it's interesting to see the process as well, where it's interesting to watch the process. Writing things down, letting things flow, and then you're reading them to yourself and to me and to the audience, and then saying, okay, that works or that doesn't work. And that's where the next phase, I believe, is where you're editing. Say, okay, that needs to be edited. So yeah, the full process is in swing.
And I've gotten over the hesitancy of slaughtering my own words.
That's right. You shouldn't do that too early. I mean, when the stage is that you feel that it's not, getting the message, or you're forget the words you use, but there's awkwardness in it, then it needs to, or that's the opportunity when you come back and say, okay, let's change a few words here and condense it, or
it's not a life or death situation.
Sure. That's right.
And the biggest quality of God's is being light on their feet.
Yeah.
It is not I'm trying to remember the Russian for it, but it's not for the gods to bake bricks. Не кирпичи. What is it? Не кирпичи богов. Fuck, I don't remember. Okay.
Okay.
That's it. Tomorrow, I hope to have read something that you pulled from the catacombs.
Yeah.
and keep reading, keep doing what you're doing. And I think let's just enjoy this for a while without thinking we should be doing something else.
Yep.
Okay, because there's a lot that's happening. My sense of freedom is returning. I can feel it. It's like so many different processes that have been put under a rock are, wiggling out. I went to bed last night. Excuse me, I went to sleep last night at 5 o'clock. And then I woke up at 7. And I couldn't, and the only thing I know to do, grab the iPad and write. Because trying to go to sleep never worked for me. Right? It's got to say, you are going to sleep now. It's like, gone. But I can't fight it anymore.
Sure.
Like in the morning when I wake up, the sun hasn't come up yet, which is now it's darker and darker. And I'm thinking, okay, I can lay in bed and what? Try to go to sleep. I'm not sleepy. Damn it. Get sleepy. Because it's dark. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be sleeping. Duh. Okay, Troy. Thank you very much. We have another Danny and Troy show, I think.
Yeah.
Right? And let's throw it to the dogs and see what they do with it.
Great. Yep.
Okay.
We'll do.
Tomorrow?
Yep. Talk tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks, Danny.
See you later.